Hello and welcome. My name is Drago. Assalamu alaikum. This is the best of the good life. Welcome to the show. We are glad to have you. Now, achieving something can be a widely exhilarating thing in life. But then if you're flirting with the idea of giving up, you could be throwing up something very important. This man I have on the show has been dragged through murky waters of politics, through everything, but he has turned out to be very victorious. Don't go anywhere as I introduce to you the man himself, the vice chairman of the NRM Kampala Metropolitan, Mr. Katongole Singh. This is Chilling. Mr. Katongole, I must say I'm very delighted to have you on the program. I've been looking forward to this for a very long time. First of all, of course, me and you have a bit of history to do with our parents. Tell me about my father's story. How did you know my father?
Your father led Moses Nyanzi Drago.
Yes.
We became close friends from Kawere's garage in Makerere.
Yes.
And fortunately, he started living opposite my father's home, where I grew up from, in Makerere Chikoni.
Yes.
And we became close friends and close associates.
Yes.
The campaigns, the politics put us a lot closer. Like I said, in '96, the first president's campaigns, we worked very closely together. We were both attached to the Underground Task Force of 1996. And we moved on from there.
That's good.
Yes.
It's good to see you in great health. I saw some interview back then on a certain television that you were one of the first people to get COVID during the first wave of the pandemic. And how did you manage to pull out?
And I think I was one of the first people to even publicly declare yes, because most people, what surprises me is the fear to say they are positive COVID. I think the Ugandans and the people everywhere need to openly come out and declare when they are positive so they can have the necessary treatment. COVID is not HIV where you think every sickness, it is always good to come out and talk. Yes, I got my COVID during my campaigns last year, 2020, when I was campaigning for my SEC position as the national vice chairperson in charge of Kampala region.
Yes, and of which congratulations.
Thank you. Yes, God is always with me.
Yes.
I always put my everything in God. I always believe when God opens your doors, there's nothing impossible. It is only after the campaigns, I was not feeling well, to the hospital. First the doctor told me, it seems you must have drunk or eaten something wrong. It looked
like poison.
No, he said
Like a food disorder. An allergy, typhoid or stuff like that.
Yes.
Mm.
He gave me some medicines. Next day I went back for my drip. He says, you seem, first it was typhoid. Next day he says, maybe even some pneumonia.
They were not sure.
Yes, so they did again tests for pneumonia, started treating me for pneumonia. Went back home. On Wednesday, I was not feeling very well, so he decided to admit me in the hospital.
Yes.
Treated me.
And what were they treating still? Pneumonia?
Pneumonia.
Yeah. They didn't have any clue that it might have been COVID.
No. So Thursday morning, I was released from hospital, that they've given me enough drips. I can go home. they will give me drips from home. When I come home, I was not very well. And in the afternoon, I started getting a bit worse. At night, the temperatures raised so high. It went up to 39.7.
Skyrocketing.
Yes. The whole night, my family was putting wet clothes on my forehead.
I'm wondering, what were they going through? I mean, what was going through their minds? They must have been devastated.
Because my feet were burning, my head was burning. They gave me Panadol, they gave me everything they could. In the morning, I rushed back to the hospital and said, no, the whole night my temperature was so high.
Was that the time you were admitted in the intensive care unit?
Yeah, that's when
That's Platinum.
I was taken to Platinum Hospital, and the doctor said, I think we do a COVID test. That is when they did a COVID test. By then my oxygen levels had started dropping to 73, 72, 70. I was put on oxygen for almost 10 to 12 days. The worst thing in COVID is you are left all alone.
Because that was what I was going to ask you. What was the greatest lesson out of this? But of course, family was there.
No, nobody would access me now.
Of course, they wouldn't.
But yes, on phone. But you reach a time, you don't even want to talk on phone. You get a lot of thoughts. And I think it is that isolation which makes some people weak. And they get depressed that what is happening. Definitely the doctors would encourage me, no, you're going to get well. You're going to get well. You lose your appetite, you lose your taste. You seem you don't want anything. I kept the strength, the energy, and definitely it took me almost 3 weeks before I was allowed to go home.
Mr. Katongole, this is the question that anybody would want to ask you. What actually keeps you motivated? What keeps you going even when you fall down? I mean, where do you get this tenacity from and the courage?
It's God. God.
God is everything.
You see, I am a person who believes you should never hate your enemies. You should like your enemies. The more potholes your enemies dig for you, the more they wake you up, the more encouragement they give you, and they open your mind towards bigger things. That is why I never hate my enemies. People abuse me. I always ask one question. Has it removed any weight or any skin from me? What has he done? He has darted his mouth. People don't like me. There's a reason. God has put me at the front, they at the back.
Were you brought up like this as a child?
Definitely my mom, my late mom,
May her soul rest in peace.
yes, used to give me a lot of motivational stories since my childhood. Our home, like I said, we come from a very humble background. My parents want to help everybody. Any needy, my parents would be always there. It was just from the family that, yes, even today, politics to me is more of social work than anything else. I am very much involved in social work. I am the chairman board of trustees, Indian Women Association, which is an NGO helping the welfare of women and children. We have done a lot of social work like renovation of the Masiro Church of Uganda school. We spent about 250 million. I have, with my association, Indian Women Association, constructed a full-fledged maternity ward in Kitebi Hospital. Through the association, we do a lot of charity.
All right, so Chilling goes on a break. Don't move an inch. We'll be back shortly with a superb guest I brought on the program today, Mr. Katongole Singh, a man who is going to be surprising you with everything that he's got. Such tenacity, such courage that keeps him going even if he falls down. So don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. One would ask my guests his formula of winning. Now, yet like any other headline grabbers, there's always riddles of obstacles in their way. But he has stood his ground and has become a very successful man. You know, through his story, we're able to learn and get inspired. Welcome back to Shilling, the best of the good life. Today, I decided to sit with a very interesting man, character himself, Mr. Katongole Singh. You know, he's so popular in the politics world, but I also want to find out, on the other hand, which kind of a person he is. Now, Mr. Katongole, one would be surprised. How many languages do you speak?
English, obviously, is one.
Yes.
Swahili, I grew up in the barracks,
Yes.
and in the barracks, the most used language was Kiswahili.
Yes.
I can speak my mother tongue, Punjabi,
Yes.
Hindi,
Yes.
and obviously Luganda.
What? You're saying
Say, I'm
obviously
Muganda.
as if it's a cliche.
Yes.
Si kikakasa katwogeremuko ku Luganda.
Amanyi bulijjo ngamba abantu
Yes.
ndi Muganda naye Katonda yanzija mu oven nga tannakunjokya bulungi. Yansikamu mu oven nandeka kale eno netanjokeza bulungi.
Naye nga Oluganda olwogera bulungi. Omuntu tasobola kutiizinga mu Luganda nga tumuwulira.
Nafuna experience nyingi. Mulundi mingi abantu balowooza simanyi Luganda. At least kati basinga bamanyi. N'ebiseera by'edda olumu naali mu Standard Bank mu line. Naali yimiridde ebbali nga line etambula ne ngamba line eggweyo. Kati kasha alaba nyimiridde esingira line nyimiridde ebbali. Ate oluusi nsiba kitambaala ndi musingasinga. Kati kasha agamba munne oyo kitambaala simanyi kyayagala.
Nga gw'obawulira.
Muwulira nsiriise. Manatuuka line ewedde ne ŋŋendayo ne nga maama njagala kuteekayo ssente. N'adduka ne mu kawunta dakika 10 teyakomawo.
Yatya nnyo.
Yes. But mbimanyidde njagala okusaba bantu bannange tuleme kwetunuulira muntu ku kyayambadde oba kiki. Leero ensi efuuse global village. So enjawukana za langi, ddiini, ggwanga ebyo tebikyaliyo. Ndi Munnayuganda naye langi yange eyawukana. So naye tuleme kwawula abantu mu ngeri ezo.
Mr. Katongole, I had to check first of all if you really spoke fluent Luganda, Omanyi out of the gossip and all that. So who inspires you in life? Or what?
Yes. From my childhood, or during my school days, I just had a feeling. I was a prefect all along from my school days.
Oh, student leader.
Yes, prefect, class prefect. In my P7, I was a timekeeper. In my O-level, we used to have National Union of Students of Uganda, and also I was also an MP. We were only allowed to stand for executive posts when we went to A-level senior 5. I was the secretary for finance for NUSU in my school. I was the chairman of science club in Kampala High School. Several. I was a member of several. I always enjoyed leading in things. I have always been interested in business because, like I said, I started working in my father's business since my senior 1. Even today, I own several businesses. Where we are seated, Katikati is one of my establishments. I own a transport business, several. But above all, like I've always said, sometimes People have godfathers. Unfortunately, Katongole have not been having any godfather to hold my hand, neither in politics, not in business. The only person who has held my hand is my God. Because in the early 80s, I told you my father started his own business, but he got sick. Almost all the businesses collapsed. I started on my own from zero.
At what age was that?
Like I said, I was involved in the business from senior one, but I worked for about 6, 7 years for Four Ways Group of companies. In around 94, I got a misunderstanding with my boss, and we had to part ways. You know, sometimes that is one thing which really motivates me. I worked in Four Ways, and he's my uncle because we were together in Masaka during Amin's time, very close to my dad. And working from there, those days there was a lot of demand of several things in Uganda which were not available. Weekends I would go by bus to Kenya, buy some of those things, sell them. Even during my school days in Uganda, it was very illegal to have even $1. They caught you with even $1 without documentation, it would be a problem. I made some whites, my friends. They would give me their checks of dollars. I got influential people in Indian community who would trust me. I take the checks. They would give me the money. I would make my cut. And in school, I was a big rich man the whole time. So I got interest in business from school days. And that's how God has always me. I always believe my Godfather is only one God. He picked me from a nobody. I was a mere counselor in Kisenyi 1. Even when I stood for counselor, I had about 7 people. Some of them, like there was Chuni in Nachivo Stadium. He was very famous in the football world. He was one of the people who contested against me in 2000 for councillor. Out of the 7, God chose me. 2005, I started from the village level in the NRM positions as a treasurer of the village. I had enemies or people who didn't want me, even for councillor. I had colleagues who had supported very much in their political ambitions when I was just in Kisenyi. But they turned up and said, no, you can't stand for councillor. When I said I'm standing for councillor and they said no, we parted ways. Up to today, some of them think we are enemies. I didn't listen to them.
If you are not this famous politician, Mr. Katongole, what would you be up to? What would you be up to really?
You see, like I said earlier on, that God does his things and at times we think he's done us bad. If my boss in 94 had not got a misunderstanding and I didn't leave Four Ways, even today, I would be a mechanic in the garage. I still own a garage, but I think I would still be in Four Ways because even the people I left there, some of them are still in the same positions. And I left, started my own business. From there, I joined politics. So I believe sometimes humans, things happen to us and we say, God does not like me. But God always has better for us. So whatever happens to you today, it may seem bad, but tomorrow it is going to have a very good future for you.
So how would you want to be remembered?
Definitely, I would love to be remembered as a person who is there to serve the people, to serve my community. I have a thought to show people that not everybody goes to politics to benefit, but to work for people. With that thought, that's why in 2010, when I stood for Member of Parliament, in Uganda we had a shortage of ambulances. It was my first thought with a friend of mine, Pastor Sakran of Malaysian Furnishing, who was sitting, and we thought, why don't we start an ambulance? I was one of the first people to stand as a member of parliament to buy an ambulance. Until date, I'm not a member of parliament. I don't earn a salary from anywhere, but my ambulance still works for people. All the time, my ambulance, I don't ask them to put fuel if it is from my constituency to anywhere in Kampala. Even the fuel is mine. My ambulance, I'm not a member of parliament for the last 10 years, but it is still working. Unlike some MPs, as soon as they come off, they won't even plug out the boreholes. People have come to buy the ambulance. I tell them the ambulance is not mine. It's for the people of Lubaga. The people of Lubaga want to sell it, they can. So I always have thoughts of doing things which can develop my constituency and my people.
Wow. Any last message as we wind up? Do you
Yes.
have any last message for your followers?
Definitely, I want to thank the people of Uganda for supporting NRM, which is my party, and giving us a chance to serve Uganda. I want to thank my president. He's been a great leader because I've seen this Uganda from scratch to today. Some people don't believe, but definitely what Uganda was a few years is not what it is today. You would have the freedom of speech, but nobody would assure you of your safety after your freedom of speech. Nobody would assure you of your freedom after your speech. And now we are in a COVID pandemic, which is a very dangerous. So we all need to be very cautious. Yes, we have gone through a second wave. We had about 2-3 weeks where we lost a lot of people. We should be cautious, follow the SOPs so that we can avoid the third wave. COVID is hurting all of us. Even my businesses are down. But at times, money is not the priority. If you have life, money will always come. So we need to take care of our lives, be cautious, follow the SOPs, and believe when you're alive, everything will come back.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Katongole. It has been a pleasure talking to you and talking to my audience. I wish you nothing but the best. And please, I wish you to hold bigger positions. Yeah, this, I believe, is just the beginning.
I always believe it is God. God knows what is good for you.
Yes.
That's why I never push for anything. God knows when and what is best for me.
Well, say no more. Well, until next time we meet, this has been Chilling. Thank you for being a great audience and have a good evening. Bye.